Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at a writing argument passage. Let's get started on our passage. So there are four passages in this writing argument section, along with four to five passages in the informative and 4 to 5 passages in the narrative sections, as you saw there before, those three sections. Now we're going to be going through every single one of those passages in this season 1. We're going to be looking at all of these passages, all of these questions, to help you get an idea of how the writing passages work and to help you ace the SAT writing and language section. Let's get started on this passage. Here it is. An emergent field needs standardization or accreditation. Right now, our instructions are that for these questions, you will consider how the passage might be revised to improve the expression of ideas or to correct the errors in sentence structure, usage, or punctuation. Some questions will direct you to an underlined portion of the passage or a location in the passage. Others will ask you to think about the passage as a whole. Many questions include a no change option. Choose that option if you think the best choice is to leave the relevant portion of the passage as it is. So how we're going to do this is we're going to read through each sentence of the passage, and when we get to the underlined portion, we're going to start to think about what we can change or if we shouldn't change anything at all. Let's get started. For many people in the United States, undergoing a medical procedure can be a stressful, confusing, and sometimes overwhelming ordeal. All right, so this first sentence, and we have the states underlined. Let's throw out this question. Let's think about how we can approach this question. Well, let's see. So, for many people in the United States, undergoing a medical procedure can be stressful, confusing, and sometimes overwhelming ordeal. So the for many people in the United States part is an introductory phrase in that sentence, right? It sets up the rest. Introductory phrases are usually around 5 words or less. This one is 6 words, or this one is 7 words, but it still counts as an introductory phrase since it is before the main topic of the passage, the main topic of that sentence, which is the undergoing a medical procedure can be a stressful, confusing, and sometimes overwhelming ordeal. So it's before that part. So it's the introductory phrase that sets up the rest of it. And when we have an introductory phrase, we use a comma to separate it from the rest of the sentence. So we're going to click a comma. Or you can see here, we can say, for many people in the United States, comma, undergoing a medical procedure can be a stressful, confusing, and sometimes overwhelming ordeal. When we have introductory phrases, we always use commas. That's that question. Let's keep going. Question number 2. Here it is. However, a new career path is emerging, and it promises to bring welcome relief to distraught families. Patient advocate. Patient advocates confiscate the rights of patients by helping them research treatment options or fill out confusing insurance forms. So confiscate sounds like they're stealing it or something, right? That's not what's going on. They're just helping them keep it, right? Now, how do we say helping them keep it? Well, we can't really use the word avenge. That just doesn't make sense in this scenario. And hoard, well, that also has a negative connotation. But the word secure, patient advocates secure the rights of patients. They keep them safe. They make sure that they get to keep their rights. So secure is our correct answer right here. That's the word that fits best in the context of the sentence. Let's go to the next question. All right, so sometimes a patient advocate will even act as a spokesperson for his or her patients. This variety of tasks attracts individuals with an equally broad range of experience. Some are former healthcare providers and some are not. All right, so this kind of question is really about the subject-verb agreement, right? So essentially we have attracts, attract, have attracted, and are able to attract as our answer choices. And we're trying to pick which one of those agrees with the plural versus singular or the right tense with the subject of the sentence, which is the variety of tasks. Let's think about what the actual subject is, right? The subject is not, as you might assume, the tasks. The subject is the variety. Now, while tasks is a plural, there are many tasks, the variety of tasks is singular, which means that we need a singular verb. Attracts, even though it has an S on the end, attracts is a singular verb. So we can say this variety attracts individuals. We can take out the of task. Meanwhile, attract is plural, even though it doesn't have the S. It is plural. It might be a bit confusing to you to see that, but essentially just think if you have an action, the S makes it singular and the no S makes it plural, which is the opposite of the nouns, how you make a noun plural. So here, this variety attracts individuals, right? You can think about it that way. The singular, just it sounds correct when you say this variety attracts individuals, not this variety attract individuals. And on the other hand, if you have a plural, such as these tasks attract individuals, not these tasks attracts individuals. That doesn't sound right. So attract is the plural, attracts is the singular. Here we have variety. Variety is singular. So our answer is going to be A, and that's the subject-verb agreement. Now we do, of course, have the other two answers, C and D, have attracted and are able to attract. Well, have attracted is past tense, where we want a present tense. That's what we're talking about. And are able to attract seems much too wordy to be anything in this sentence. And then we can move on to our next question. All right, however, there's a downside to this low threshold to entry. In the absence of a formal accreditation program, not all healthcare professionals believe that patient advocates possess the knowledge commensurate with their potential influence. All right, how do we approach this question? Well, first we can see which of these are independent clauses. However, there is a downside to this low threshold to entry. Well, that it seems like an independent clause right there. And the second part is, in the absence of a formal accreditation program, not all healthcare professionals believe that patient advocates possess the knowledge commensurate with their potential influence. That's also an independent clause. The two independent clauses, and we cannot connect them with a comma. That doesn't work. We can't connect them without anything. And then we have a colon, which does connect to independent clauses, and then a semicolon, and then because in. That'd be, however, there's a downside to this low threshold to entry, and that'd be like a period there, because in the absence of a formal accreditation program, not all healthcare professionals believe that patient advocates possess the knowledge commensurate with their potential influence. Does that make sense? Well, first of all, it seems a bit too wordy, right? It seems a lot more wordy than entry colon. And second of all, notice that this underline only goes up to here, meaning that you would have low threshold to entry, period, because in the absence of a formal accreditation program. So that's repeating the word in twice. That's not grammatically correct. So C is incorrect. And our answer choice is B, right? It connects the two independent clauses as a colon does. And also sets up, using this part, it sets up this part, right? So this is kind of like the introductory part, the cause, and then this is the effect. And that's how that works. Let's move on to the next question. Question 5. And we have, given that some doctors welcome patient advocates into the decision-making process, others are elected to add another voice to the conversation. Well, this seems like a contrast, a conflict, right? Some doctors welcome them, some doctors don't. So we need a contrast. Given that does not give a contrast. Because is a cause and effect. Considering is like a lot like given that, it's a kind of similarity, and although is a conflict word. So since we have a conflict here, we look to although as our conflict word, and that's our answer. Let's move on to the next question. Question 6. The writer is considering deleting the underlined sentence. Should the sentence be kept or deleted? Sentences, they argue that patient advocates often lack medical expertise and that they may misuse their influence to sway a patient against a doctor's sound advice. Well, this sentence seems to make some sense in there, right? You're saying, well, since some doctors welcome them, but some doctors don't, and then you're saying why those doctors don't accept them, right? That's giving a reason for one of the viewpoints said in the previous sentence. So it seems like we should keep that, right? If we delete it, then we're getting rid of one of the main ideas, one of the main viewpoints of the sentence. And then we also say insurance providers voice similar concerns. Well, if you take out that sentence, where are the similar concerns? The similar concerns refer back to that sentence, so you need to keep it. Now, which justification should we pick? Well, it seems like we're putting that in there because it elaborates on the viewpoint of not adding patient advocates into the conversation that's introduced in the previous sentence. That seems like answer choice A. And we can move on to the next question. All right, question number 7. Which choice provides the most effective transition to the topic of the new paragraph? So it's all the way down here. We can read it anyway. Insurance providers with similar concerns, noting that the field of patient advocacy lacks the standardization and accreditation which would qualify it as a meaningful medical service. As a result, most insurers are unwilling to provide coverage for patient advocates, meaning that patients must pay for this service out of their own pocket. This variety of experience which characterizes the field of patient advocacy is one of its most significant advantages. That's our sentence. And we're told which choice provides the most effective transition to the topic of the new paragraph. So first we have to read the new paragraph, to get an idea for what it's talking about. So let's read it. It says, it must decide whether to continue opening its doors of this field to all who wish to enter, or limit its practitioners to they who, which sounds wrong by the way, so probably we're going to change that, to they who can complete standardized training and accreditation programs. If the field of patient advocacy were to argue, again, a bit weird, its current lack of regulation, it would continue to attract individuals with a variety of backgrounds and skill sets. However, it would also sacrifice the trust of doctors and insurance providers. This potentially beneficial field would become rife with amateurs, and public confidence in their ability to improve medical outcomes would suffer. Okay, that is the paragraph. So what is the paragraph saying now? Well, the paragraph is saying, essentially, that it has to pick a side, right? It has to say, either we're going to leave our current regulations or we're going to add new regulations. And it's a trade-off because on one hand, without regulations, you get more people. And on the other hand, they're actually like a better quality of people who you have as patient advocates. So it's like a trade-off. You're trying to pick one, right? Now, the no change option doesn't really seem to suggest an idea of having to pick one of the options. And then B is another challenge facing many patients is physician access. Well, that is completely off topic. Neither of the paragraphs talking about that. The passage is not talking about that. That goes way off topic. That's not what we're talking about. And then the next one, it says, because disagreement abounds, the services provided by the field of patient advocacy will likely remain uncovered by most insurance networks. Well, that's not what the paragraph is talking about. The paragraph's not trying to talk about the money part. The paragraph's trying to talk about the choice, right? Which option does the field take in the future? And then choice D is, given these conflicting perspectives, the field of patient advocacy will face a crucial choice in the coming years. That perfectly sets up this idea that you have to pick one of these options that will decide the course of this field and will change how this field is regarded and is used in going forward forever. So that seems like our answer. And we can move on to the next question. All right. So then we have it must decide whether to continue opening the doors of this field to all who wish to enter or to limit its practitioners to they who can complete standardized training and accreditation programs. So they is not a possessive noun, right? Here we need a kind of possessive, right? Now possessive is going to be the those, right? So they is not possessive, those would work. So it's going to be either those who or those which. Well, which is an object and who is a person. So we have to go with those who, right? If we put that in the sentence, we see it must decide whether to continue opening its doors of this field to all who wish to enter, or to limit its practitioners to those who can complete standardized training and accreditation programs. That fits perfectly. It connects to the those of the people who we're talking about, and then it says who again connecting the people, not objects. So that is our answer. And we can move on to the next question. All right, if the field of patient advocacy were to argue its current lack of regulation, it would continue to attract individuals with a variety of backgrounds and skill sets. However, it would also sacrifice the trusts of doctors and insurance providers. So it's saying if it kept its current lack of regulation. Right, now which one is kept? Argue doesn't mean correct. Maintain does mean kept. So we can go with maintain. And then we have care for and service. Neither of those really give the idea of keeping something. All right, next question. Lesson 10. So we're starting from right here where we left off. This potentially beneficial field would become rife with amateurs, and public confidence in their ability to improve medical outcomes would suffer. And then for number 10, we have it is critical that both physicians and insurance providers alike take the time to carefully evaluate the contributions of patient advocates rather than leaping to conclusions. That doesn't really propose a specific course of action that should be happened, right? That's what we're trying to get at, a specific course of action. And then individuals who work in the field of patient advocacy would make a greater impact if they collaborated with insurance companies instead of constantly challenging the billing decisions. That's not what we're talking about in the passage. That's unrelated. Therefore, the field of patient advocacy must take the more challenging but responsible course, adopting universal standards of accreditation for patient advocates. This seems to work. This seems a specific course of action. What should happen in the field? It doesn't give extraneous information about patient advocates versus insurance companies, none of that. We see in answer choice D that still has that same theme of patient advocates versus insurance companies. That's not what we're trying to get at. C is what we're trying to get at, and that's our answer. And we can move on to our last question. The writer wants to conclude by emphasizing the positive long-term results of the proposed approach. Which choice best accomplishes the goal? So we have, like other medical professionals, patient advocates should complete an approved program of study and commit to specific professional norms. Further down the road, a clear set of best practices supported by solid research must be developed. Considering the complicated nature of today's healthcare industry, there will always be a job market for individuals who have an expertise in navigating this field. That doesn't really emphasize the positive results. But we can see choice B. Patient advocates have been an essential part of the healthcare process, offering clear, manageable information and practical assistance to their clients. That doesn't really say anything about the proposed approach, right? We're trying to support the proposed approach. That doesn't do that. In the absence of such an approach, the field of patient advocacy cannot be guaranteed a permanent position in the healthcare industry despite the benefits it provides. That's kind of like the inverse, right? Instead of saying the positive long-term results of the proposed approach, it says the negative long-term approach of the negative results of not doing the approach, which seems like it would make sense, except that's not what the question's asking for. They're very specific in saying they want the positive long-term results of the proposed approach. Then we look at our last answer and we see, then and only then will the field of patient advocacy be accepted as a valuable component of the United States healthcare system. It says it's going to be a positive, it's going to give positive results, it's going to be a positive part if you do this approach. So that is our answer. And that's the conclusion of this passage. This was our first writing argument passage. As you can see, we just went through every single question. We thought critically about it. If you're still confused about any of these questions, feel free to look at Season 0, where we break down every single topic on the writing section. Until next time, when we look at a brand new writing argument passage, I'll see you next time.